What's up, everybody? Thanks for clicking this video. Thanks for tuning into this channel. My name is Simon Hill, Black American from Louisiana, coming to you live from Budapest, Hungary, and I'm here with my beautiful wife.
Hey everyone, I'm AKDI, and yeah, I'm from Turkey.
All right, and today we are reviewing Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, the 1998 film, directed by Terry Gilliam and starring Johnny Depp and Benicio del Toro. And I watched it for the first time last night, and I think half of the movie again this morning. And yeah, it was an interesting film. And this is a film request that we're doing from our longtime subscriber, Mad Villainy. AKDI, tell us if you saw this movie before, and yeah, what you thought of it after you saw it.
Well, I haven't heard about it before. Maybe like I saw it on lists and things like that. But yeah, I watched it for the first time this morning, and I really enjoyed it. I think there was like a lot of symbolism in it, and it was like a lot of fun and different effective effects that the director used. So I think like I thoroughly enjoyed it. Yeah, I can say that.
Okay. And why did you enjoy it?
I tried to understand like there was a lot of symbolism regarding politics at the time in America. I think I tried to like pick up those little pieces. Like I don't know, it was sometimes it was a prop, sometimes it was a song. So I always like those type of details. And yeah, because I'm not American, I don't know like a lot of the things, but I know some of the things like Vietnam War and Nixon and stuff like that. And then also like I thought how the director sort of like conveyed being high really good. I thought it was like really good. Like I felt high at some point, I think. What did you think about the movie when you first
When
watched
I
it?
first saw it, I kind of didn't like it. I appreciated it for the cinematography, the lighting, how they were able to bring drugs to life or the feeling of being high to life, because that's very hard to do in film because it's such an experiential thing. But I didn't like how the story was sort of all over the place and the plot had no meaning. But I liked it more the second time. And that was after I watched some explainers on YouTube, and that gave me more context about the film. But what did you think about how the story was sort of like jumping from this to that, and it didn't seem like it was heading towards a point? It was more about the experience. What did you think?
Yeah, I mean there was like kind of no character development and like no plot really. It sort of felt like, two guys going on a drug bender and, I don't know, like taking a trip to Las Vegas. But I don't know, I felt like it was more than that. And there was like point to sort of everything that was happening, and there was a social commentary and there was a political commentary. So I thought it wasn't like really a story about the story,
Hmm.
basically.
Yeah.
So I didn't mind that part.
I agree that it's not really a story. Well, the story is about the story in and of itself. I heard you say there's no character development, and I've also heard other people on YouTube say this about this film. I feel like there is character development because we do see, Raul and Gonzo, sort of change over their trip and their relationship change. And I do think the drugs did have an effect on them and change their minds, like how the film ends. Raul sort of comes out with some understanding that the drugs really aren't doing anything beneficial to him. So I do think there is some character development, but what do you think?
Okay, yeah, like when at times when he was like writing and he was like telling us what he was writing, I guess, or thinking,
Hmm.
maybe there was like some sort of realization, but in my head it was more like what he already thought,
Hmm.
but he just like sort of ignored when he was high, and then it came back to him when the drugs were wearing off a little bit and he realized like what that whole thing was doing to him.
Yeah, yeah. But the thing about this film, I've heard about this film forever. I've seen clips of it everywhere, and I do know, or I did know, that it was a cult classic. But I thought it would be kind of much better than it is. Maybe it gets much better on replay value, and yeah, I think the film probably holds up really well to replay value because there are so many things in the film that make you think. There are so many quotable lines, funny moments, and just interesting shots that you want to see again. So, how do you think it will hold up on the replay?
I think it will hold up good because like the effects are really good. How everything is shot, it like definitely I feel like gets you in the story.
Hmm.
The music is good, which will hold up always.
Hmm.
um and I don't know, like the actors are sort of like known actors like Johnny Depp and Benicio del Toro,
Hmm.
and even like Toby Maguire, even though his role is like very
Yeah,
tiny.
Cameron Diaz shows
uh,
up too.
yeah, so like for those reasons also, but also like even though it was a movie that was like about
Hmm.
1970s, like the book was from that era,
Hmm.
it's like kind of you can still see the same like social problems that we have
Hmm.
today, like even today. So
Yeah,
and I think we will continue to have those problems for some time. So
yeah,
I think it will hold up because of that.
yeah. Definitely holds up because I feel like there's a lot of subtext in this film that gets missed, specifically with Dr. Gonzo. I feel like there's an I haven't heard, or I haven't done much research, but I feel like a lot of people skip over, what's going on with Dr. Gonzo and his position as sort of like this, racial minority or racialized other in the society, but being a lawyer. And there's so many hints in this film that he's dealing with a lot of past trauma as being abused for being a racial other. And I really was interested in Dr. Gonzo, and almost everything he said, I sort of like read into it more. And every scene interacted with him interacting with Raul, I read into it more. So yeah, I would like to see that on playback. But you had anything?
Yeah, I also thought like those two main characters were interesting, like how Dr. Gonzo was a minority,
Mm-hmm.
and like but both and then like Raul was a white American,
Mm-hmm.
right? But both characters were sort of looking for the same thing, the American dream,
Mm-hmm.
or I don't know, relief from reality.
Mm-hmm.
Both like characters were doing the same thing, but they had different reactions to it or different traumas to it.
Mm-hmm.
So that was definitely like an interesting
Yeah,
dynamic.
I think more it was Raul looking for the American dream, and then it was Gonzo who just wanted a relief from reality. But speaking of relief from reality, this film brought me back to so many times where I was high out of my mind, experimenting with different drugs. And I'm not a big weed smoker, but I did smoke quite a bit. Did some edibles a few times. Did ayahuasca, dropped some LSD, took some Molly, think some ecstasy. Um, what is it? Some downers like damn, what's that thing name? I forgot the name. Where man, I forgot the thing that you pop or a pill that makes you fall asleep, but it's not Ambien. But yeah, I've done quite a few, and a lot of the scenes in this film brought me back to those moments where I was like so high I thought I could see through my hand, or like hallucinating, like when I took shrooms or something like that. So I don't know. Did this film bring you back to any moments in your drug life?
I have to say I'm pretty vanilla with drugs.
Uh huh.
Like I didn't do any hardcore drugs, so like no, I was never like high out of my
Hmm.
mind, or I was never like tripping, or I was never in a bad trip or anything like that. So like no, because I don't know, I'm just like maybe not that interested in that sort of
Hmm.
mindset,
Hmm.
and I do think it like sort of dilutes your reality in your mind a little bit if you continuously take it at the very least.
Right.
Like I'm maybe like might be down for trying like once,
Hmm.
but I'm not that interested. So yeah, like no, I wasn't. It didn't take me back since I didn't experience that
I see.
before. But it did, like made me think. I don't know. Maybe like right now I'm in Turkey,
Hmm.
and coming back to Turkey after many of our discussions, after many things that we learned, I was like sort of how can I put this? Like the nationalism in Turkey,
Hmm.
sort of like I saw that in the movie also a little bit as well.
Hmm.
If that makes sense, like how Raul was sort of like nationalistic.
It's a weird sort of nationalism. We're going to talk about Raul in
Yeah.
depth, but continue. Go ahead.
Yeah, like his nationalism sort of reminded me of like how I used to view nationalism in my country,
Hmm.
I guess.
Hmm. And explain what you mean by that. Build more on that.
Like I for me, like because that's how I grew up. Like you're always proud of Turkey. You, I don't know, like do stuff in school and you write things about your history and all of those things. So it comes very natural
Hmm.
to you because it's been given to you since you were a baby.
Hmm.
And then I realized that that's actually sort of fucked up
Okay.
to be thinking like you're this great nation or like you're special
Hmm.
in that sense, or other people are different from you. I don't know. I felt like once I met you, or like once we started to travel, or even like when I started to travel before I met you,
Hmm.
I sort of like realized those feelings are kind of like not natural
Hmm.
for humans. I don't know. So that's the type of like nationalism I'm referring to. It was like I had that awakening moment,
Hmm.
and some of the things like Raul said or did sort of reminded me of um, acting in the
I
past.
see. Interesting. I don't mean to. I hope I didn't make you hate Turkey or dislike Turkey, and I don't mean to take.
No, I
Yeah.
don't.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I don't hate Turkey. I just don't like that you know extreme nationalism that
I
much
see.
when I compare it to my past. That's it. Like, of course, I don't hate Turkey because this is the place where my roots are.
Hmm. Hmm.
But like, I have to like, especially when I'm in Turkey, I have to remind myself like we're not, the great grandsons of the great Ottoman Empire because, like you always say, like empires are not that great. So
Yeah.
we have to like chill about that.
Yeah, got to chill on that. But
Yeah.
I'm gonna talk more and build more on Raul like that. But his nationalism is a bit sort of different, right? Like his idea of America is like this is the land of the free, and let's take freedom to its extreme. And so that's how I'm sort of interpreting it. But he also inhabits or exhibits a lot of like the negative qualities of our country as well. And as a black person watching this, there's some parts of the film that are so cringe for me because it's like you know, these are it's essentially a film of white men being as bad as they want to be and never suffering any consequences, like a Martin Scorsese film. So there's like parts of it that are like so frustrating to watch because I'm like, this film would have been over like in the first 10 minutes if Raul and Gonzo got pulled over before they even made it to Vegas. Police would have been guns out, get out the car, sticks over the head. You feel me? So there's parts of this film that are like frustrating, and I bet for you, like as a woman too, like watching this, you might see some parts of this where you know their male privilege, you know, sort of allows them to act worse than a woman could in this situation. And also the like sexism in this film, like they're threatening to like rape girls and you know being abusive to like waiters at diners and stuff like that. So yeah, I don't know if you want to build on that.
Yeah, that was definitely like those parts where women were involved in the plot were the most disturbing parts for me
Hmm.
because yeah, I knew that at some point in history these things happened and might probably still be happening now because of like these men with privileges
Hmm.
or I don't know, men that are just like abusing everything and
Hmm.
anything.
Hmm.
So yeah, that was definitely like the most I don't know, I guess like personally hurtful scenes that I saw.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
And
Go ahead.
I have to ask you a
Go
question.
ahead.
I was watching like a review
Hmm.
sort of
Hmm.
thing about this movie, and apparently like Martin Scorsese wanted to do an adaptation of the book
Hmm.
as well, and he was going to star Jack Nicholson and Marlon
Hmm.
Brando as the two
Hmm.
guys.
Hmm.
How do you think that would play
I
out?
think that
Would you like this better than
I
this one?
think it wouldn't be better or worse. It would be equally as good. Marlon Brando was insane, like as we know from you know the documentaries about his life and the videos made about his exploits. I think Marlon Brando would have done just as good a job as Johnny Depp at Raul. And if whoever played Gonzo, I don't think. I mean, what Benicio del Toro did a great job with Gonzo, I would say.
In Scorsese's version, it would be Jack Nicholson.
I feel like Jack Nicholson might be a bit too extreme. A bit, he might have taken it a bit too far because there's parts where Gonzo is like threatening Raul, but it doesn't come across like he's actually going to do it. And Jack Nicholson got those crazy eyes where he will actually kill you, like we've seen in The Shining. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, he definitely have that crazy vibe.
Yeah, crazy eyes, crazy
But
vibe, crazy smile. It would have been too. It would have been horror movie ish. You know?
yeah, I think with those two, like with Brando and Nicholson, it would be a bit more like terrifying.
Hmm.
And with Johnny Depp and Benicio del Toro, it was more like satire, I guess.
Yeah, satire ish, funny ish, dramatic ish.
Yeah,
You know, they were able
yeah.
to. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say like just their like energy gives more like a chill vibe
Hmm.
to the movie, I
Yeah,
guess.
definitely, definitely. I think you know Johnny Depp did an amazing job. You know, I can
Yeah,
understand why people put him in their top 10 like greatest actors of all time because you know bringing this character to life, the way he was acting, it reminded me of the scene of in Wolf of Wall Street when Leo was on those drugs. I forgot the name of the drugs, Quaaludes. Yeah, and Leo had to like morph his body to come down the stairs and stuff like that. And Leo only did that for one scene, but it seems like Johnny was doing that the entire movie, and that takes a lot of talent and a lot of dedication. So shout out to him.
yeah, he was definitely amazing. Like all like Benicio del Toro was also really good as well.
Hmm.
I thought they really like captured that like crazy, freaky drug like I don't know, druggy lifestyle.
Yeah, definitely.
They were probably taking drugs at that point.
Possibly, possibly, possibly. But my guy Matt Villainy is here. He's the one who suggested this film. I wanted to ask you, what do you think of this film and the acting and the overall story? If he's here.
Yep, I'm here. Yeah, so uh, I thought, I mean, the film is one of those interesting films. I think this might be maybe the third time I've seen it because I watched it last night, not last night, but the night before, and I got introduced to this film at the time I was in tech school, and my professor mentioned it. He's like an architectural professor, and I happened to see it that I guess it was yeah, it was a while ago, the first time I saw it, and yeah, I thought it was real interesting. As me, it's something like the hardest thing I've ever done was like drink alcohol, so
Hmm.
not really into uh, that drug scene,
Hmm.
but like I don't know, the it was interesting to see because you can like when I was watching it, especially even just at night, it was a I felt like I was tripping. Like if you saying something like this, like you don't even have to be on drugs. Like that's the testament to how good the movie was. If you're like completely sober and you're watching this and you think you tripping, that's good.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. There are parts of the film where it's like the scene with the dinosaurs in the cafe in the bar, or like yeah, when the floor is moving under them and stuff like that. It gets really trippy, very
Yep.
trippy. But yeah, so Acty, shall we walk through the film?
Yeah, let's
Let's
go.
go. So I don't even know. Like you could really sum up the film in like 2 sentences. But I think
I mean,
go ahead. Go ahead.
like I think we can do like 3 parts
Three
maybe.
parts.
I'm not sure. Yeah.
But there's so many intricate scenes, like important scenes or scenes that
Yeah.
you remember. But yeah, I mean, the film opens up with these two guys in a red convertible car driving in like the desert of Arizona or Nevada or something like that. And the guy is narrating the story, saying like the drugs have kicked in right outside of Vegas or something like that. And they're tripping. The guy who's driving is Raul, played by Johnny Depp, and he starts visualizing bats flying all around him, and he's bugged out. Then, as they're driving, they pick up this kid who's trying to hitchhike, and yeah, we also find out that in the car they have a bunch of drugs, like pounds and pounds of like heroin and mescaline and opium and stuff like that, weed as well, cocaine, everything, right? So they're filled up to the tilt, and the kid is played by Tobey Maguire. Raul gets in the back of the car while Gonzo is driving, and he explains that Raul is a journalist who is going to Las Vegas to cover like this race that's happening in the desert on motorcycles or something like that. And the guy who's driving Gonzo is his attorney, and he also says like his attorney is Samoan or he might be Samoan, and yeah, basically they're on a trip to discover the American dream. And the kid gets freaked out when Gonzo starts talking about he's going to Vegas to murder somebody who ripped him off in the past. And the kid like runs out of the car, and yeah, they just keep on driving. What did you think about like the opening scene?
I really liked the opening scene because it was so confusing. And the confusing part was like, for example, some of the speech were not like according to the lip movements. And I was like, is that because like they're trying to create this drug effect? Or is that like because the film is old? Like, I don't know what is happening. And then like he was seeing bats. And then first I thought, okay, he's hallucinating. And then the car drives off and there's like a dead bat
Mm,
on the road. So I'm like, okay, was he like seeing the real thing?
mm-hmm,
So it's like, I think it really does a good job right off the bat
mm-hmm,
to let us know like this film is going to be trippy.
mm-hmm,
And right off the bat, I guess like there's going to be like some social and political commentary because of like how Raul is describing his attorney,
mm-hmm,
right? So yeah, I thought like right off the bat it was sort of like an interesting movie, and I knew it was going to be sort of like a mind fuck.
mm-hmm.
I knew it like, okay, this is not going to be like some movie I can just like lay down and watch. I have to like pay attention to it.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, the opening scene is definitely iconic. And I really liked how, like you said, when they drove away, the dead bat was there. So it makes you like question reality. But there's also another scene, like when they do the flashback to how Raul and Gonzo were at some Beverly Hills restaurant. And then they get the phone call that Raul is going to go to like Vegas to do work. And they drive off in like some beat up car. And there's like an angel there with like a flaming sword. And like, what is that there? Like, there's so many things in the background, things happening that makes you think, okay, what am I actually seeing on screen? Is this real or not? Can I believe what they're telling me? And yeah, there's a lot to say. I could really sit here and rant about Raul for like a good hour by what he's talking about and stuff. But we also forgot to mention this film is based like in 1971. And at the beginning of the film, before the car scene, like they're showing clips of like protests against the Vietnam War, bombs dropping over Saigon and stuff like that. So yeah, you got anything you want to add on that?
Just like talking about Raul's character here, in the beginning I got the sense of like, he's a nationalistic person, but he's not like the type that is saying like kick all the immigrants out,
Mm-hmm,
but he's more like the type that's saying like believe in the white man's dream,
mm-hmm,
and then like we'll take you with
mm-hmm,
us, but you always have to sort of like believe in me
mm-hmm,
and see me as like the ultimate, I don't know, I guess in this case like ticket to everything and anywhere.
mm-hmm,
Or I don't know, like I don't know. He has like that sort of arrogance about it. He said something like, these brown people, or I don't know, like what he said, like these
Samoans.
people, Samoans don't believe in the white man's dream enough. That's their problem,
Mm-hmm,
or something like
yeah.
that. So like yeah, his like I guess racism or like nationalism like kind of depends on the American dream,
Mm-hmm,
and not like really like a hatred of the others,
mm-hmm.
but more like just believing in himself too much or having like too much of a white man's ego.
Yeah, I'm going to build on that. But there was a question I wanted to ask you earlier, and I just now remembered it now. As a future psychologist or therapist, like, how do you feel about, psychoactive drug therapy?
Well, I don't think it's for everybody, but I do think like in general, in terms of psychology, I don't think like classic psychology is for everyone, and everyone would need like a personalized therapy or psychotherapy for themselves. So I do believe like it might be like good for some people, but it does have to be like under very strict supervision,
Mm-hmm,
and it's like really easy to take advantage of it.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So it's very like, rocky
Yeah,
territory. And I believe it should be done by like people who are very, very like professional and dedicated to using, psychedelics only for the purpose of enhancing, the mind and the psychology and getting to the unconscious, and nothing more than that. So yeah, like yeah, I don't think like I'm not gonna say like it should not be happening or anything like that, because a lot of things that happen that shouldn't have happened for the sake of science and psychology. So
yeah, definitely. I would say, the reason I asked that question is because I believe Gonzo is self-medicating through psychedelics to deal with some trauma he's had in his life. Being this person who was Samoan. By the way, he never identifies as Samoan, but this guy Raul continues to call him Samoan and doesn't even ask him what his real ethnicity is. For all as we know, he could be just a white guy too, but just a very swarthy white guy. You get what I'm saying? But I feel like Gonzo
yeah,
had a lot going on in his life because of what he exhibits. Like there's times where he gets violent, there's times where he wants peace, there's times where he wants love, and there's times where he wants revenge, and it always seems to be because of something that he is associating his drug trip with in his past. Like he's thinking of the time he was beat up by the police, or the time he was profiled or something like that because of his background or something. And the thing about Raul, Raul exhibits all of those qualities of the white men who get to fail up in life and take everything to the extreme because society is like built around them. So like in the beginning when Raul is like, yeah, we're just gonna, well, Gonzo actually comes up with the idea to like take all the drugs to Vegas and just get really high out of their mind. Like so he's the one who says it at the cafe, but obviously like they were both in it together. Like Gonzo might have just said this just because Raul already was thinking that, and they were already on that type of time. So there's a lot of times when Raul is like, saying things like what you said. Yeah, in spite of my friend's race, he's actually a good person. That's the problem with you Samoans. You don't understand the white man's culture and things like that. And Raul is just living life to the extreme in a way that only like people with privilege in America can. And this entire film is just an experiment or just a view of that. You get what I'm saying?
yeah, no, definitely. Raul is like sort of like the guy who's taking drugs and then thinking about the society
Mm-hmm.
and what's wrong with the society and can philosophize about it and all these things.
Mm-hmm.
But where like Gonzo has to like live those things.
Mm-hmm.
Like the things Raul is contemplating about,
Mm-hmm.
Gonzo is going through those things. So he doesn't like think about
Yeah.
contemplating about those things,
Yeah,
basically.
yeah. I think about the scene when they were in the hotel room together. When they actually make it to Vegas, they check in, and they're having a very bad acid trip. And Raul is in the bathtub with his suit on, and he's threatening to kill himself because he wants to kill himself when the song reaches a certain peak. And Raul is like trying to like bring him down and like calm him down, and he almost makes him believe that he's going to kill him, but then he doesn't. He just hits him in the head with a melon, and then they have that flashback to how they met. And Raul is sitting on the couch. He locked Gonzo in the bathroom. He smoked some like weed or crystal meth, whatever. And yeah, back in the day, Raul went to like some psychedelic hippie party, and somebody was like passing out LSD. He goes into the bathroom, does it, and some of the drugs fall on his arm, and the guy starts licking it off. And that's when Gonzo walks in, and he sees that happen, and he's like, "What the hell is this?" And Gonzo obviously is like not in that lifestyle. He's not in that culture. So he looks sad and he looks like he's not, fitting in once again, probably a pattern from his life. And that's probably how they began their drug relationship. Like Raul put him on it. What did you think about like that part when how they met?
I'm gonna be very honest. I didn't know that was Gonzo.
Really?
He looked white.
It was.
How was that?
You didn't
How
catch
was
that scene?
that? Those were like two completely different people. I mean, already like Dr. Gonzo already looks like somewhat white, right? He looks like a Mexican.
Right.
And then like I don't know, that guy with the suit on, I thought he was like just a white corporate dude.
No, I believe that was maybe a different actor, but yes, that scene is how Gonzo and Raul met.
Mm. Okay, like I'm sorry I didn't get that
Oh,
part.
okay.
But I mean, now thinking about it, yeah, probably like it was like he sort of felt like an outcast, but bumping onto a person who's white and who is sort of like Raul,
Hmm.
who just like does anything and everything and doesn't really care,
Hmm.
and has that, I guess, social commentary aspect.
Hmm.
He might have thought I can just hold on to this guy and live my American
Right,
dream.
right. Um, I think there probably is like some codependence with each other, right? Because
Yeah,
Gonzo is an attorney, so he can provide protection for Raul's bad behavior, and Raul provides Gonzo with access to this world that he probably avoided all of his life, or he didn't think was possible all of his life. So there's a like a mutual symbiotic or parasitic relationship between each other. Does that make sense?
yeah, definitely. Like because I don't know. I guess they're both taking advantage of each other, or like you said, it's codependence, not
Yeah.
advantage.
I'm gonna ask my guy Matt Villainy, what did you think about Gonzo and Raul's relationship? Because there were times when they almost were about to kill each other, but then there are times when they're like partners in crime and they're buddies to the end.
Oh yeah, so yeah, that man, It's hard for me to like really articulate. Uh, they just had this relationship where I don't think that they ever would hurt each other. But it's like it seems so close because they're on all of these drugs, and they still have the awareness to not do anything like really dangerous. And so, yeah, it's just that's why I think they're like really they have to be really close because even when they're high,
Mhm.
they they have that awareness not to hurt each other
Yeah.
real bad.
Yeah, I think there was like some genuine love between them to some degree, but there was also maybe parts of Gonzo that didn't want to, that couldn't be understood by Raul, and vice versa. I don't know, Acti, what do you think?
Yeah, definitely. I think there was like some repressed feelings from Dr. Gonzo towards Raul, because if you think about it, Raul could replace Gonzo
Mm.
to a degree. Like he can find another lawyer that wants to do drugs with him all the time,
Hmm.
and then go on these insane trips, I
Hmm.
guess. But it would be so much harder for Gonzo to find someone like Raul.
Yeah, yeah.
And maybe that's why he was somewhat like mad at him as well, also like having all this privilege,
Hmm.
and then also like sort of maybe fearing that he might be replaceable.
Yeah, yeah.
But for Raul, it didn't matter. Like as long as he had a crime partner,
Uh-huh.
he would be good. Like all he cared was about like having fun and taking drugs
Hmm.
and yeah, doing all these
Yeah,
things.
yeah, to some degree. Now, we should take a step back and talk about this film because it's actually, despite its weirdness, based on a true story. So this is a adaptation of a book written by the famous journalist named Hunter Thompson. And Hunter Thompson was like the innovator of gonzo journalism, which is basically a type of journalism where you are in the story. Like you go there and you experience it yourself. Like forget just reporting on the Sudan war. I'm going to be on the battlefield, like with these people, right? Or forget reporting on drugs in New Orleans. I'm going to smoke weed with a bunch of gangsters in the Ninth Ward or something like that. So, like, this story is based on Hunter S. Thompson's two-part series that he published for a magazine that was made into a book, where this really happened. He went to Las Vegas with his lawyer, who was on a bunch of drugs, and documented the experience in hopes of trying to discover the American dream. What did you think about that aspect when you found that out?
Yeah, that's definitely really interesting. Being, I guess, this open about like these sorts of things, like taking all these drugs and then like writing about it. But I do like this type of journalism. I think it's different. I think it's authentic. If it's done well
Hmm.
and not that dangerous, I guess.
Hmm.
I'm not sure, but yeah, I saw like a clip of his, like of Thompson.
Hmm.
And I have to say, like, also Johnny Depp did a really good job because their characters felt very, very similar.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's definitely interesting. Like, I don't know, I think it's really cool.
Yeah, yeah. I heard that Johnny Depp lived with Thompson for 4 months in preparation for this film. And yeah, basically, Hunter Thompson invented Vice. Like, Vice would not exist if it weren't for Thompson's story. And the thing that I love and hate about Thompson's story is that, on one hand, I actually really like that part of American culture or our myth or our ethos, whatever, where the idea is that you can be whatever you want to be and you should take things to the fullest extent as long as you're not hurting anybody, right? And that's one of the beautiful things about this idea about our, frontier spirits, the idea that we can do anything and conquer anything and reach some level of truth by being full human beings, right? That's one of the only few things I'll say about America. I could talk shit about America all day. But the thing that I dislike about it is that a lot of the times the people that are only allowed to be full humans and basically, run from the police like like Raul did, take the police on a high-speed chase, and then the cop just tells him, why don't you just take a nap? Like that's only allowed for a certain privilege, a certain sect of people, right? And it's so frustrating to have that in our country. And yeah, also another thing is like, the thing about drugs, especially psychedelic drugs, like these were used for thousands of years by indigenous people to interact with the spirit world and reach another level of truth and understanding. And even like tobacco, like the Native Americans would only smoke tobacco like on religious ceremonies. And nowadays we smoke cigarettes and consume it like it's nothing, right? When we think about doing drugs under capitalism, of course you're going to be in a Las Vegas casino seeing everybody as reptiles that's going to eat you because you're living in an unnatural world. You're in an unreal environment in and of itself. Going to Vegas is a trip, even if you're sober. So, seeing somebody take these drugs and have these negative experiences happen to them, it almost feels like, a disservice to what these drugs are meant to do, right? And I also dislike how, with this sort of journalism, it is also just fueling capitalism to some degree because we can have people behaving badly, white men behaving badly with no consequences, and then they're able to monetize their experiences. And other people, if they wanted to have the same experience, couldn't even live to tell the tale. You get what I'm saying? So that's all I had to say. That's like my love and hate relationship with this film and Hunter Thompson and everything. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, in a way, like I'm talking both like the real story and the movie. It is sort of exposing the American dream, right? Like what you're saying is the American dream's idea, what it should be like. No matter what your race is, your religion is, what your gender is, you can do anything.
Mm-hmm.
You can be very successful, and that's the idea. And that idea is good on paper,
Mm-hmm.
but in reality, that doesn't work out like that because of social judgments and class struggles and racism and sexism and all those
Mm-hmm.
things. So I think what like with Gonzo journalism, like Hunter Thompson taking this trip and also this movie is sort of like exposing that
Mm-hmm.
and telling us like there is really no American dream and we're just like getting high as fuck. So if he's gonna expose those certain ideas, then he can use his white male privilege,
Mm-hmm.
I guess. But yeah, that's all I wanted to
Yeah,
say.
yeah. Well, I want to ask my guy Matt Villainy. You got any comments about anything we've been chopping it up about?
No, no, so far so good. Yeah,
All right.
yeah, get back with me in a minute.
Okay, okay, okay. So, yeah, moving on in the story, basically, like, Raul and Gonzo make it to Vegas and they're in the hotel tripping out on all sorts of drugs. And if you really watch this film over again, like the different drugs they take, the scenes start to change to match those drugs. Yeah, basically, the next day, I think what happens next? What happens next in this film? There's really no story. There's really no plot. But I do remember, like, the first part of the film, they're like really high in Vegas. But then Raul and Gonzo sort of like fall out and Raul wakes up the next morning and Gonzo is gone. And so, Raul has to like leave Vegas, but then he like comes back. And at the hotel now, there's like a bunch of police there for like a police conference. And he's walking into the police conference holding the
Oh,
suitcase full of drugs.
wait. Before that, I want to mention like some things though,
Okay, go ahead.
because the part that I really like.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess like two things happen up to the police convention. First, yes, they're tripping out. They're in the hotel. They meet the guy they're supposed to meet, like
Oh,
Lamberta or
yeah,
something.
yeah, Lacerda.
And I don't know, like I didn't really understand, and I was sort of glad that they cut that character short.
Mm-hmm.
But basically, this guy comes into their hotel room, but Raul is so like tripping out, and he sees like I don't know certain things about Vietnam War.
Mm-hmm.
I guess there's like that symbolism there. And then the next day, Raul goes to the race,
Mm-hmm.
the thing that they're actually supposed to report for,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like a race in the middle of the desert, and there's like sand flying everywhere. It's muddy, and the race starts. It's a motorcycle
Mm-hmm.
race, and he's riding in the safari car with Lamberta,
Lacerda.
Lacerda, sorry, Lacerda, and yeah, he fires him, and like I don't know what is up with that character really, but yeah, like he basically that sort of thing happens, and I don't know like what is
Oh
that
no, the
about?
thing is, Lacerda, like when Raul got the call at the restaurant saying, "Hey, go to Vegas to report on this race," they said, "We're gonna hook you up with a Portuguese photographer, and you have an all expenses paid trip, free. Just go there and do it, and the guy will meet you there and explain more." And then Lacerda comes, and he's like a straight laced guy who's like, not high as hell like they are. So they see him as annoying, and it was kind of funny because Raul sort of shows his racism again because he looks at Lacerda, this very white guy, and says, "You're not Portuguese." Because he's so white. You get what I'm saying? And there's
Yeah,
and so yeah, I really did like the race scene too. But when Lacerda got fired, it was cool. I like how like they were in the desert and Raul was still smoking that cigarette with the extension with like the holder. He even cut a hole in his mask to have the cigarette there. Like, what did you think about him constantly having the cigarette in his mouth the entire film?
I mean I don't know, maybe I don't know, it was maybe like just a symbol of I'm constantly high. I don't know. I'm not sure. Like I didn't really think that deeply about it. I just thought it was like a character thing,
Mm-hmm.
his look with a cigarette.
Yeah. The
Um,
thing about Johnny Depp, I think that might have been an addition that Depp did for his character because that's what he does with every character he does. Like you remember Captain Jack Sparrow because you think Johnny designed it himself. Like he didn't walk on set and decide, I need this amount of eyeliner.
yeah,
Edward Scissorhands, like this guy, you'll always remember that cigarette at the end of his mouth with the holder. You get what I'm saying?
yeah, definitely. I mean, like the one thing I make sense of this desert scene was that, like when they were riding in the safari car
Mm-hmm.
in the Johnny Depp's character, he was saying like, "Oh, this is like we're in the war or something
Mm-hmm.
like that." Like he was sort of comparing it to a war,
Mm-hmm.
and it also felt like that too because it was like dusty. There were like sounds coming, and yeah, I just thought maybe like yeah, there's like a social commentary saying, we as a country created war,
Mm-hmm.
but there's also like war in our country as well. So some sort of like a psychological war, I
Right.
guess,
Well,
a war of consumption, a war against consumption and and I don't know, supremacy and capitalism. And but this is something like we created, and now we have to sort of like lie in it as
Right.
well.
The thing is, the war always comes home, even if you didn't go. And
Hmm.
I like how in this film, Vietnam is constantly in the background. The film opens up with people protesting Vietnam. Like you mentioned in the hotel room, he's watching the TV, and then the bombs start dropping like in the room, like through the shadows. And yeah, when he's out there in the desert, it made me think of Iraq. It made me think of like, Afghanistan and stuff like that. And this movie was made in 1998. So it's sort of interesting. We went to war with Iraq in like 1990 or 1992 or something like that. And yeah, this sort of like brought it full circle that like the war will continue. The war always comes home. And yeah, I like how also in this film, like, when you do drugs, a lot of the times you watch TV or you're watching YouTube or the internet or something like that. And those things that you visualize, that you consume, sort of like affect you as well. And media is a part of our experiences as life in life. So like, yeah, even if you've never been to Vietnam, like it still feels like it's affecting you because like you're in your home and now the bombs are dropping on you and you can't help but go outside and hear the gunshots and the planes whirring overhead and stuff like that. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, definitely. And I also like those like constant imagery as well.
Hmm.
And also the next part, I guess I'll go to the next part
Hmm.
if
Yeah,
you
yeah.
don't
Go
have
ahead.
anything
Go ahead.
else to. Because this was my favorite part of the movie, other than like the last part where they sort of had a
Hmm.
climax. But they basically like go. I don't. They go to like some sort of club and then they get kicked out.
Hmm.
I don't know what that was. But then after that, they go to a
Yeah.
circus and they take ether before they go in because like their other drugs are like they don't have any more LSD or something.
Hmm.
I don't know. And it's I thought this like whole circus scene was so like symbolic, so satiric,
Hmm.
so like I don't know,
Hmm.
caricaturized
Hmm.
of like caricaturization of the American society, at least at that time,
Yeah.
or maybe still at this time as
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
because like they do the ether with an American flag. First of all, like there were so many little
Yeah.
symbols. They go in, there's like a trapeze artist,
Uh,
and then the trapeze artist like acts like she's giving birth,
hmm.
and then the baby jumps up, and the baby's wearing like astronaut costume. So like the baby's representing, the walking on the moon,
Yeah.
and it and like everything is distorted, and people are just consuming and consuming. Everyone is like weird.
Hmm.
There are dwarfs. There are like extremely tall people. I don't know. Like everything is sort of like a
Hmm.
circus, and maybe that's how like the youth was feeling at that time as well. Like everything is a circus. Where there's a war happening, and there's like AIDS happening. There's racism happening, sexism happening. We're trying to do some sort of revolution, but everything is too much. So then like we're starting to take drugs, like as I guess like the hippie revolution sort of thing.
Hmm.
And then like shit gets out of hand, and now like the conservatives are blaming them for being, violent and all those things, and corrupt. So it's like so many like social things happening at that time,
Yeah.
and it's always like that, honestly. But yeah, I just thought it was like a really really good representation of that. Really good, like I don't know, example.
Yeah, there was
What did you
no,
think?
yeah, that circus scene was very that circus scene was great. The American flag is everywhere. Like you said, like he takes the ether and opens a bottle and washes it like with the American flag or cleans the top of the bottle. And like, in the background everywhere the flag is everywhere. And it's sort of always kind of reminding you like this is our country, this is our culture, like this is a part of it. And yeah, the circus, of course, the constant consumerism, the weirdness of it all, like just being in this society is a trip. It is like you're high as hell. So you broke it down perfectly. I had nothing else to add on. I felt like you were talking for me. oh,
And
oh,
also
oh,
there was a
oh,
line
yeah. Go
line
ahead. Go
here
ahead.
that I liked that Raul said, and he compared the circus to. He said something like, "This is what it would look like if Nazis won the war
Mm, yeah.
in the circus."
Yeah.
I don't know, and I just thought like, okay, so like maybe or like this scene is trying to say like, yeah, like of course America is not like Nazi
Hmm.
Germany,
Hmm.
but in some sort of twisted, modern, masked up way,
Yeah.
it is kind of like that through
Yeah.
capitalism and through oppression.
And
So
and
yeah.
through the distortedness of our society. Like the thing about Nazi society, it was like distorted. It was weird. It was everybody rallying around this crazy concept. But our concepts are no different. Like, yeah, let's give birth to a baby while scissors are like chopping at us on a trapeze and a trampoline and cut the umbilical cord in the air. Like that's crazy. Like, what is our society? What is our society? And
Yeah.
there was a line. There's so many lines in this film. Like if you go through the dialogue, there's so many quotable parts. I really like the line when they do make it to that circus. Raul says, "The people knew we were high, so they pushed us inside," or like something like that. Do you remember that part?
Yeah, I think it was like when they were trying to
Yeah,
enter.
when they were trying to enter, and I'm like, that makes so much sense because that's how the casinos work. They want you to, be drugged up. They want you to be drunk. They don't They don't care if you're like in your right mind. In fact, they prefer you not to be in your right mind. You know?
Yeah, I mean, it's like that with everything, even with the music that's being played in fast food restaurants.
Mm-hmm.
It's high tempo, so you eat it
Yeah,
faster
yeah,
and then get out.
yeah.
So the next customer comes.
Exactly, exactly. Look at you. Actually, I love you because you're smart.
But yeah, that was one of my favorite scenes. And also, like I said in the beginning, that's sort of when I realized this, like, also not realized, but made the connection with like nationalism in Turkey as well.
Mm,
Because you remember this probably, but we have like Turkish flags everywhere,
everywhere.
constantly. Like, we're proud of
Yeah.
Turkey.
Being in Hungary, I feel like I've only seen like one or two Hungarian flags. I don't see them everywhere. But
Yeah.
yeah, Turkey and America have a lot in common because we do love to put the flag everywhere. So
Yeah, I mean, it's nice to be proud of your country, I guess, but you don't also have to forget all the bad shit that you did
yeah, yeah,
as a country. I mean,
yeah. Matt Villainy, any comments on any part of the film or this part with the
Oh,
circus?
oh yeah, I did want to mention like flags.
Mm-hmm.
So for instance, when an army is defeated, and once an army is defeated, that flag is not supposed to be flown ever again. But
Mm-hmm.
yet, the Confederacy flag, you see that all over the South.
Mm-hmm.
That's that's
Yeah,
uh that's crazy.
yeah. That's very real. It's very real. And yeah, like in this film, like they gladly fly the American flag because I think this film is sort of like a love letter to America. This same way in Climax. You remember actually in Climax, the French flag is sort of like very prominent in that film too.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But basically, like they're in the circus and Gonzo starts to get sick, right? I'm just not remembering because I'm looking at the film too. But Gonzo gets sick while they're in the circus. And he's like, this place is getting to me. I'm getting the fear. Once again, I feel like Gonzo is going through a lot in his mind. He goes through.
I have a
Go,
theory
go ahead. Go ahead.
because I don't know if you caught this, but towards the end of the movie, I'm gonna spoil it a little bit, but I don't want to forget.
Everybody's seen this film.
So towards the end of the movie, when they're like super high, of course, again,
Hmm.
and he yells at a white man from the car saying like he went to Vietnam.
Mm.
So I'm thinking he was white, corporate lawyer. He went to Vietnam, and then he had so many like psychological shit that happened there
Hmm.
that he sort of like turned himself into a Samoan.
What?
I don't know,
What?
like maybe he's like having some like personality disorder,
Okay.
and he's just like he wanted to live this life
What?
where he could like just I don't know,
That's wild, actually. I'm not laughing at you, but
but
that's a
he
wild theory. I mean, it could happen. It technically could happen, but go ahead.
because like his older self in the movie, like they could have found somebody that looked more like him. Like even his hair was like
No,
blonde-ish,
it was
a little
not.
bit like more
You got to
blonde.
rewatch the scene. When they met, it was supposed to be younger. Because remember, in the.
I did rewatch it
Okay.
when you mentioned it. Rewatched it, but like here his hair is like I don't know, like black, and then in that like flashback scene, his hair is like brown ish.
Okay.
So it's like I'm thinking like he had like identity crisis confusion, and he didn't want to be a white male American anymore
What?
because of what he experienced in the war. So he said like I'd rather be an immigrant because I don't want to identify with like I don't want to identify as an American.
Wow.
And I think he had like a I don't know personality disassociation disorder or something like that.
Okay, that's a wild theory. I mean, anything is possible. And an interesting fact is that the guy, the real guy who Benicio del Toro is playing, Gonzo, he disappeared. Like nobody knows what happened to him. Even the real Hunter S. Thompson doesn't know what happened to his lawyer. So maybe he did go to Samoa and become like a different personality, or he's now living in Dubai as a sheikh or something. Who knows? I mean,
It's just a theory I have. I don't know.
I number one in the film, he doesn't ever say he's Samoan. It's just Raul continuing to call him Samoan. So that's one thing. But who knows? I just feel like Gonzo has a lot going on in his mind, and
That's
and
I
and I
mean
think this film. I just want to say this: like Gonzo, if
yeah.
Gonzo narrated this film, it will be kind of a bit darker and also different, a different perspective. Like
Yeah.
Raul is looking for the American dream and freedom, and Gonzo's narration might have been like, "I just want peace in my mind. I just want." To reconcile some things. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. I don't know. Like he got tanned in Vietnam when he was like fighting in the war,
You
and like his hair got longer, and I don't know. Then he bumped into this guy again, and he called him a Samoan, and he was like, okay,
okay.
I'd rather be Samoan.
Yeah, that's a wild theory. That is insane. That's insane. That's insane. But Yeah. Like when Gonzo is like, when they go back to their hotel room after being at the casino, and Gonzo is like chopping at the melon with all that force, and he's like threatening Raul with the knife. There's so many parts of this film that scream to me like I wish Gonzo had more say, if that makes sense. Because it's an interesting character. I wish there were like dual narrations. Why not? There could have been dual narrations. This film had no plot
Yeah.
anyway. We can't even tell the
I
story
mean,
properly.
there can be a sequel where like this time it's Gonzo narrating it.
Yeah. There's also that scene in the elevator where, Gonzo faces off with like some guy who said he was lying when the girl who was a reporter says to him, "Oh, you must be a motorcycle rider because you look so big, tough, and strong." And it's like Cameron Diaz flirting with him. And then another guy in the elevator says, "You lying. That's bullshit." And he threatens him with a knife. And there's like, I feel like Gonzo exhibits like a lot of toxic masculine traits, but I didn't feel, and maybe this is my male privilege saying, but I don't feel like Gonzo was actually a toxic man, but it's more like a defense mechanism, right? For people that are like always attacking him and nipping at him. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, it was sort of obvious that he had like a lot of shit that he was going through because his high and Raul's high was never the same, really.
Yeah.
Because he always got anxious, suicidal, depressive, and he was always like reaching out for weapons and guns and things like that. Whereas like Raul was sort of like, yeah, he was like tripping hard, but he was sort of chilling.
Okay. So who would you smash or pass?
Ew.
You gotta pick.
I mean, Johnny Depp's hair is like really,
When
it's
he took off that hat, I said,
making me dry.
yeah, when he took off that hat, I was like, oh.
I know. It's just really bad. Like, let's keep the hat on.
No, but you gotta pick Raul or Gonzo.
Uh, okay. Don't criticize me for this, but I might go for Gonzo.
Okay, why?
Cause like Raul is a bit like skinny, and I don't know like if he can handle me. And Gonzo, I don't know. He has that like masculinity that I prefer. I guess like both of them are really bad, just to be
Yeah,
clear.
really bad.
But
Man,
yeah, I wanted to like touch on
go
something.
ahead.
I don't know if you have like a lot of
No,
time
yeah,
for this.
well, I'm free till 2. I got class, but go ahead.
Okay. Like yeah, so basically I'm also moving on a little bit as well.
Mm-hmm.
They leave the circus, they go back to the hotel, and yeah, Gonzo is like tripping hard, and he remembers like this girl that they met. And then we have a flashback to the elevator scene, and they're in the elevator, and there was the Cameron Diaz's character is there, and I guess she's also like a TV reporter sort of person, and she kind of flirts with Gonzo, and she says like, "Oh, we're here to like take shooting, and we thought like you might be a good addition or something like that." She says something like that to Gonzo, but then like when Gonzo gets uh like has I don't know because he's high, he gets like weird with them, and then they sort of like back down, and yeah, it feels like that reporter girl is sort of like using him a little bit, I guess, or tries to use him as sort of like a minority, I guess.
Ladies and
I'm not
gentlemen,
sure.
we are officially high because I just walked through the scene. I literally just did, but go ahead, go ahead.
So, anyway, then they get to the hotel room, and Gonzo is like tripping hard, and like he goes into the bathtub and he's listening to White Rabbit,
Mhm.
and yeah, he wants like Raul to kill him. Basically, he says like when the song is in the climax, like drop the radio into the
Yeah,
bathtub,
yeah.
and then like yeah, Raul doesn't do that, etc., etc. And then Raul goes down to the casino, and I also think like he's trying to again find the American dream, and he's like sort of commentating on what he's seen
Hmm.
as well, and he's saying like, what are these people, why are they here? And then he plays one thing and he says like, make me rich,
Hmm.
and then he loses the thing, and then he says like, it's okay, I have to learn how satisfying losing is as well.
Hmm.
He says something like that.
Hmm. Hmm.
But yeah, I don't know. What did you think about that whole
I
thing?
thought the part about him gambling and just being okay with losing and not getting addicted goes to show that Raul had some capability to control his urges. So I feel like that showed us that Raul is not addicted to drugs. He has the ability to fight an addiction, right? Now everybody has their own poison, right? Like somebody might like to drink but not like to smoke, like marijuana, but they might be addicted to drinking or addicted to smoking. But you get what I'm saying? But I thought that showed he could have self control. What did you think?
Yeah, definitely. And like he might be addicted to drugs, or he might be like just, getting high on drugs all the time, but he's not gonna get addicted to like these dreams that are not real,
Mm.
like the American dream.
Mm,
Like he can see through that bullshit, but
no, I
I don't
I
know.
disagree. I think you and I have two different interpretations of this film. I think he is addicted to the experiences that drugs can give him, but not the drugs themselves. And he's addicted to discovery. and he does believe fully in the American dream. That's why he pulls out the flags. That's why he puts up the flag in his hotel room. That's why, he puts the flag on his car and stuff like that. And at the end of the film, it's like he did discover, the American dream, and it's not in drugs. It's, the freedom of it all, the freedom to do a bunch of drugs in Vegas, run from the police, commit crimes, threaten to gang rape young girls, and then write a book about it and make millions of dollars. Like, that's the American dream. So I don't know. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what you said. Yeah.
Yeah. No. But yeah, shall we jump to the police part?
Yeah, so basically, what happens is, yeah, it's the next morning and Gonzo is
Yeah.
gone, and Raul wakes up in the hotel room, and then he tries to like escape the hotel
Yeah.
and not pay. I think they were like scamming everyone, right? Like, I don't know. I don't think they had
They did
money.
not have money. They were not paying their like room service bills. By the way, how were they ordering all that goddamn room service and they were high as hell? Like,
I mean, I think they like in the first hotel they said like someone else is gonna pay for
oh
it,
yeah.
so they just like ordered a bunch of food. But yeah, basically he escapes the hotel, and the lobby man gives him like a telegraph,
Yeah.
but he doesn't really read it. And then he's trying to get out of Las Vegas,
Yeah.
and he's saying like I have to get out. But then on the highway, police starts to chase him,
Uh-huh.
and they end up like stopping somewhere. And basically the police like he has a beer in his hand, and like a lot of different shit at the back of his car. So yeah, but the police says like, yeah, there's a motel like a couple of blocks away, so just go and like rest there.
Hmm.
And yeah,
He
like
makes it
he
to
doesn't really.
Yeah, he makes it to the hotel and Toby Maguire is waiting for him right there. He freaks out because he's like, "Ugh, look at this little freak."
Yeah, I mean the police also asks him to kiss him
Yeah.
as well, so he's like a closeted gay dude, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. But yeah, and then he's like sort of lost. He doesn't know where to go, so he calls Gonzo,
Hmm.
and Gonzo says like, I have a room for you at the Flamingo Hotel.
Hmm. Hmm.
And yeah, and then but we see like Gonzo in a law firm,
Hmm.
like sitting on a desk.
Hmm.
But then when he goes to the hotel, he Gonzo is in the hotel,
Hmm.
and there's also a girl with him who looks very young and sort of like out of her head, like maybe possibly I'm guessing she's also on drugs, like they gave her drugs. And Gonzo says that he met her in the flight,
Hmm.
and yeah, I don't know, like it looks like they had sex or something like that,
Hmm.
or basically Gonzo raped her, sort of like took advantage of her because she was on drugs.
Hmm.
I don't know. I got that vibe.
Hmm.
And Raul says like they have to get rid of her, so they get rid of her, and they talk really like shitty stuff about her, like they're gonna let her get raped and stuff like that.
Yo, that was crazy.
But yeah, what did you think about that part?
So I really like the second half of the film where they meet the police. Like they're in now it's like a totally different world, right? And like the scenes change too. Like all the parts in the first half of the film when they're high as hell in Vegas, it's dark, it's chaotic, it's dingy, it's scary. And then when the police come, it's like bright as day. They're all sort of like dressed the same in uniforms, very clean cut, white bread, corn fed, crack ass crackers. And I really like the scene when Raul is like checking into the hotel and there's like one of the cops over there having like the biggest hissy fit of all time, yelling at the guy at the front desk, like, oh, let us check into our suite. And the gay guy who's there is like, no, sir, you're going to have to check into the Paradise Hotel. And Raul is looking at that and he's saying, like, I know what you really want to say. And then they interpret what the gay guy really wants to say to the cop. And it was great. I really like that scene.
Yeah, that I was gonna say that too. That was also one of my favorite scenes.
Yeah.
And he says like, I've been dealing with angry cops all morning, and now I am in charge.
No, he's been dealing with angry cops all his life. Like he's been
Oh
harassed by people who have, called him the F word and, called him a cocksucking son of a, etc. You get what I'm saying? So
yeah, that was a great
that was a
scene.
great scene. There's a lot of like latent homosexuality in this film. Like at the beginning of the film, when Gonzo and Raul go to the beach and they do mescaline and they're like sort of like out there laying together on the beach. And then the part when Raul is in the bathroom and the guy is like licking LSD off his sleeve, and that part and the part where the cop asks to kiss him. Like there's a lot of like you know latent homosexuality here, and I wish the film sort of like pushed it further a bit, or the story pushed it further. But I think they were trying to stay as real to the text as possible.
Yeah, I think Raul might be gay.
Well, I think he might be he might be down for whatever.
Maybe, but it's just like I don't know, like the way like he and the receptionist sort of like connected,
Hmm. Hmm.
and he got into the pink room. I don't know. I think like there was something to Liza Minnelli as well because she is a gay
Oh
icon.
yeah, there was like a shrine to Liza Minnelli. I didn't think you caught that.
Yeah,
I remember that.
and not that I'm like generalizing this to gay people, obviously, but like he was sort of okay with a girl, you know, being raped. I guess like he didn't really
Yeah.
care, but that was because like he was on drugs.
Hmm.
So yeah, I don't know, maybe and throughout the story, like we see Gonzo trying to hit on women or grope them or things like that, but Raul doesn't really do
Mm.
anything like that.
Mm.
And if you're a white man who's on drugs and using white privilege constantly, I would feel like he would definitely try to fuck girls,
Mm.
but he never did.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Like Gonzo's, heterosexuality is very present because he's like trying to holler at girls, and he's constantly interacting more with women than Raul. But I think once again, Raul is out there for the experience, and I think to some degree, Gonzo is trying to reconcile issues in his past, and maybe as a racialized minority, if he's Samoan or Mexican, whatever he is, he probably felt like, these white women in my life have always overlooked me. Now I'm going to be the powerful lawyer man, and I'm going to dominate over white women, right? So that's
Yeah.
what I'm thinking. Maybe.
Yeah, or maybe he's asexual, or maybe all the drugs sort of like, you know,
Yeah.
his penis is not working
Right.
anymore.
Well, once again, the part with the police, the second half of the film with the police is so great because there's so many funny scenes in there. Like there's the police are there for like a conference about drugs and why drugs are bad. Okay, and like Gonzo and Raul are like sitting in the conference while some doctor is up there saying wild stuff like, why the hippies call a roach? It's because it looks like a roach. And Raul and Gonzo are in the back just talking shit to each other like nobody thinks that. And yeah, Raul says something like, I can feel these cops. They're sick people, and Gonzo says to him like, I can feel them in my blood or something like that. Another hint to like his past, maybe where he was abused by police. And yeah, I just really like that scene. I really like those parts. What did you think about that?
Yeah, I do think also that was really good because, and I also like heard this in one of the like explained
Mm-hmm.
videos, that like basically the guy was saying this movie shows like the worst of both sides,
Mm-hmm.
like the worst of these sort of like conservative ethnic freaks,
Mm-hmm.
not ethnic, ethic
Yeah.
freaks. And also like on the other side you have like wild, insanely drug taking hippies.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like both are like when they go to extremes are really bad.
Yeah.
And yeah, like here we see like the bad of that extreme, and like there's like an infomercial that says like know your druggie,
Mm-hmm.
and then like there's like a video that basically shows like a person robbing another person,
Mm-hmm.
and it says like if they cannot uh have sex they will like masturbate, like,
Yeah.
and then they will leave like semen in their underwear, and then we have the scene where we see Raul looking at his pants and he has like semen on his
No, I don't
pants.
think he had semen on his pants.
Yes, he did. He was like rubbing it off,
Um,
and
I
then
thought he
like
was checking his
he
pants. I think
looks.
he was just looking and checking.
Oh, I have like the scene right
Okay.
in front
Okay.
of me,
Go ahead, though.
and like he looks to his right, and like two people are making out,
Uh-huh.
like the police and his
That was
wife.
wild. Gross.
It's like like these things actually are the things that everyone
Mm-hmm.
does, not the robbing part, but like masturbating,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And then like they make it out to be like this is only something druggies do and things like that. Like that was like just hilarious.
Yeah.
um and yeah, like also you can see they were talking about like some woman, and they say like do you think she uses
Mm-hmm.
marijuana, and then the guy who was giving the speech, the policeman, said like I don't know if she is, but if she is it's going to be hell of a trip. Like
Yeah.
it's okay if a woman does, if she's going to get freaky in bed.
There's a that part was interesting because they mentioned Margaret Mead, and Margaret Mead was a
Yeah.
famous anthropologist in the 1960s who was famous for being like trying to understand different cultures, right? And she would go on TV and talk about, in different societies, like in Papua New Guinea or some, uh, you know, not modern tribe in Africa or whatever, they would have women in charge, and women are more power, and they're more sexually liberated and stuff like that. And she also went and did studies in Samoa. So it was sort of like tied together with Gonzo's story once again, because Margaret Mead did a lot of studies in Samoa about those people and their gender relationships and stuff like that. So I thought that was interesting.
Okay, yeah, I was talking about that woman, but I didn't know what she did or who she
Yeah.
was. But now that you like explained it, it's really
Yeah.
interesting that they tied it up like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah. There's so many parts of the cop part that are interesting, but to my guy Matt Villainy, for the second half of the film, when they, interacted with the police, what did you think about that? Like, because I thought that raised the tension of the film. It sort of gave them like, oh, you're thinking like, okay, are they going to get discovered? Are they going to find out that the drugs are there? Are they going to have to run from the police? Like, I really like that part of the film because it sort of like made the story more concrete. I don't know.
Oh, yeah. So, uh, I don't know. It's I don't because I just think at the was it 1971? So that was when I looked it up. That was the the declaration of the drug war,
Mm,
and that was when the movie was set. Richard Nixon, and so they were learning about these drugs and or how to I guess how to fight against it. So I think just I really don't even think there were any danger of getting found out, because the all the cops were there on a conference, and so um, yeah. Oh yeah, and then also didn't they left that hotel right
Hmm.
in the middle of the conference. So yeah, I think they were planning their escape and stuff,
Yeah, yeah.
and so they left.
And what did you think about the scene when Raul walks in there and sees Gonzo with the young girl, and then tells Gonzo to come outside and says, "Hey, this is what we could do. We could pimp her out to the police. They can all fuck her at the same time in a hotel room with pictures of Jesus on the wall." What did you think about that?
Yeah, that was like uh that was bad. But they're under the influence and all. I don't like, where did Gonzo even find her? Uh, but yeah, so um,
I mean, she also came to Vegas for the American Dream as well, because he said that he wanted to show her paintings to Liza Minnelli in Las
mhm,
Vegas, but then he gave her some drugs, and then yeah, that's what happened to her. So it's like another aspect of the American Dream, I guess.
Hmm.
right. Yeah, so I mean, I think just that time, like, the 70s or whatever. I guess I guess some people, or I guess like it was just a different time, because I could totally see that happening for real.
Right, right. All right. So yeah, my thing is like when Raul comes and meets up with Gonzo again, like he's in the hotel room and it looks like Gonzo sort of has his ish together. Like the room is clean. He's got a little broad in there. I mean, she might be a minor. That's a problem. No Diddy, no R. Kelly, but it seems like Gonzo sort of like knows how to manage his drugs. And he was
I lost Joe.
what's up? Oh, okay, but yeah, it seems like Gonzo is like, he's doing LSD with this young girl. He's wearing a muumuu. He's probably like meditating and having deep thoughts. And then here comes Raul, and he like messes it all up because Raul comes in 5 minutes later. He's saying, "Hey, let's pimp out this young girl. Let's rape her." And then a few scenes later, in that same hotel room, it's back to trash. It's destroyed again because Raul seems to have a more toxic relationship with drugs and also with Gonzo. What did you think about that acting? Because that's what I was thinking. I was like, Raul's like on a journey of self discovery. That's a warpath, and Gonzo is like trying to elevate his mind, reach new levels of
Um,
consciousness.
Dang, I don't really have any thoughts on.
You know, acting.
Yeah, I mean, I guess like we discussed before, also like Gonzo is sort of doing drugs to relieve himself from his
Yeah.
trauma to an extent, and Raul is going for the experience, so he's just like taking it to the extreme. He's like giving the Epstein to Gonzo, and he's like, yeah, let's pimp her
Yeah.
out, and because we can make money off of that, and that's also American Dream.
That's wild.
Everything is like fair in love and
Hmm.
war. So I don't know. I guess that was like what he was trying to do, like you said, just living the experience to the
Yeah,
extreme.
yeah. And so, yeah, I think we jump ahead. Like they have another night of like binging and going hard and stuff like that.
I mean, yeah, like basically they go back to the hotel, the new suit,
Yeah. The
and
sweets. They get rid. Yeah,
sweet.
they get rid of Lucy.
Yeah, and then like Lucy calls them, or like the hotel calls them that they left Lucy in, and I think here like Raul is trying to say something like, you fucked her too, and then like he has this vision of like them being in court, and Lucy is like testifying against them and saying like they gave her LSD and raped her. So like I think Gonzo is feeling guilty because Lucy is in that situation, but then Raul is saying like you did that too.
Hmm.
So like why are you feeling that way?
Hmm.
And then in like how I saw it was that Gonzo gave him like this insane drug,
Hmm.
right? And it was like a human it's like a liquid from human adrenal gland
Yeah, adrenochrome.
and adrenochrome, yeah. And it's like very strong. And I think he gives him that plus like a lot of
Hmm.
cocaine and to like make him forget and really like trip hard to forget all these thoughts that he's giving
Hmm.
him, saying like he did that to her or anything else related to that. And then like he says, because he's trying to like almost trip him out, he's saying like you're gonna gain 45 pounds, you're gonna grow tits on your
Hmm.
back, and yeah, you're gonna be like tripping, and then you're gonna like, I don't know, die or
And he's
something
gonna.
like that.
And while he was telling them that, he turned into that. Like he turned into a demon. Gonzo looked like a demon to Raul.
Yeah, and this part was definitely like trippy, very like in the moment, sort of disturbing. You did feel like with the lights and the camera angles and the like their like eyes and stuff like that. It was definitely like a very good representation of like being super super high.
Very.
So
What did you think?
I do have some thoughts real quick. I think Lucy just might have been a metaphor, for LSD because he did say this is Lucy in the sky with
Hmm.
diamonds. So she probably wasn't even a real person,
Hmm.
probably just LSD or something. Because know that, I mean they was high, so it's possible that
Yeah.
the person actually didn't exist. It was just a metaphor.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely, definitely. It might not have even been real because it's so hard to believe what's real. Because on one scene you see an angel with a burning sword, and then the next scene, dinosaurs are eating at a cafe. So definitely true. Maybe it didn't exist. She didn't exist. But
Yeah.
yeah. But moving on in the story, like at that point, it starts to become downhill, and I just feel like this film gives like Requiem of a Dream meets Zola. Like, and Zola is one of my favorite films, and Requiem of a Dream is one of like those films that scarred me for life, at least from the time I saw it. So I don't know. Do you feel like actually this is an anti-drug film or pro-drug film?
Oh, I mean, I don't think it's trying to do either, really.
Really?
But it's not just a story about like two guys on drugs, because I feel like it's much more than that.
Hmm.
And I mean, yeah, like I guess it depends on who's watching it.
Mm.
But I definitely feel like regardless of who's watching it, like you don't want to be this high because it feels like very, I don't know,
I
suffocating.
disagree. I think you should get that high at least once in your life, in my opinion. Because
I don't
there's
know.
parts of this film that reminded me of good moments I had with my friends, like being on edibles with George, or smoking big blunts with Damon, or popping shrooms with my guy Ken, or doing coke with my guy Ken. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I've had some good ass experiences on drugs. Thank God I didn't get addicted because I'm too poor to afford them. And if I got rich, I wouldn't buy them. But I do think you should have those trippy moments because, like, my life would not be what it is if I didn't really get high one time and say, I'm going to move to Miami. Or I popped some shrooms one time and said, fuck America, I just want to travel. Like, I think drugs can help you access parts of your brain and parts of your soul that you generally aren't able to tap into.
Yeah, but I think um like you can access to those parts on your own as well, but you do need like a very strong meditative skills, I guess. I don't know, or like just very maybe it could be something else that gives you that sort of realization. And drugs definitely do that, but I guess it's just not for me. I don't know.
I got you. Kids, don't do drugs. Be like acting. Don't be like Simon. Don't be like Simon.
But also at the end of like his tripping parts, that scene, we see like the television, and once again, there's like a messaging to Vietnam, I guess, or like other wars, because in the television, I don't know who's the politician, or I don't know if it's Nixon or anything like that, because I don't know what he looks like, but basically, a guy, a politician, says like, you know, a lot of people from our country is sacrificing so we could have peace and other people could have peace, and that's basically how the government was doing propaganda to its own citizens, saying like it's okay if we're in Vietnam because we're trying to have peace and we're trying to bring
Mm,
peace. So yeah, and then like he blacks out with the American flag in front of him, like just covered in the big American
yeah.
flag. And I just thought that was like a really cool scene as
It's a
well.
trippy thing because, like, once again, media is so important. Like, we get these messages and we sort of have to take them in and try to make it make sense in our head. So imagine you're living in a country where you're doing hella drugs, you're you're high as hell, out of your mind, living above the law, and meanwhile, half a world away, your country is like bombing innocent children in a village. It's hard to put those two things in your head. Like, how does that exist?
Yeah.
That, but yeah, basically, how does this film end? What happens?
Well, okay, so Raul wakes up and like the house is insane. There are like all types of props. He's wearing like a reptile tail,
Oh, that was
and
great.
he has like a microphone like wrapped around his head, and he has a tape on his chest.
Mhm.
So he's listening to the things that happened when he was
Wow.
high, and we see like different scenes of what happened basically. And I don't know. There's like a scene where Gonzo is like with the housekeeper, and he's basically trying to like have sex with her, and then like they scare her away. There's that scene
Oh, he's not
there.
trying to have sex with her. She came in there to clean the place, and he thought that she was a spy or the cops or something. But then yeah,
Oh,
they trick her into thinking that they're the cops and that they're going to give her money to stay silent.
yeah. So, yeah, I guess there's like once again a pattern of really anything could be okay with money. Like if you have not even money, but illusion of money and
Right.
power can get you anything because they were not rich
Hmm.
and they were not cops. So it was just like that illusion. And then there was like a part where they were in the circus part again and they wanted to buy a monkey There was a part where they were smashing their Cadillacs in front of a store, and the people were like thinking they were crazy.
Mm-hmm.
There was a part in that part where I said like Gonzo was puking out of the car, and then he says I was in Vietnam, and like there's a white couple, like white Karen and Darren couple,
Mm-hmm.
on the other car, and yeah, like they're like I don't know freaking out or
Yeah.
something. And there's a diner scene. I
Yeah.
don't know if you want to expand on that
Yeah.
one.
Yeah. But man, there were so many funny parts of that replay. Like when he wakes up in the hotel wearing like those boots and the tail. I thought that was great because like that's one of those moments like when you wake up after blacking out. Like what the hell happened? I don't know if you've ever blacked out before and then woke up somewhere and you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I mean on alcohol.
I'll
Yeah,
tell I'll tell
definitely.
you one of my craziest blackout stories. It was my graduation party from university. I got so lit that I just remember sitting down on a bench, waking up in my bed the next day. I open up the covers and I got like those patches on my chest that like you went to the hospital. You know what I mean? And I saw a wristband.
What
I had
happened?
no idea. I have no idea. I have no idea. Still to this day. Still to this day, I have no idea what the fuck happened. Jesus Christ, that was crazy. That was one of the craziest stories I've ever experienced.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, yeah, I don't I mean because like most of the time when I got like blackout drunk, I was with my
Uh huh.
girlfriends, like my team of girls. So like one way or the other, one of us pulls out the
Uh
others
huh.
and then like keeps them safe.
Yeah.
But yeah, there were definitely like very badly made decisions collectively, like going into some random person's house party or something like
Yeah.
that, and then just like ending up sleeping in the rug
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
on the floor, like with the I don't know, with the pizza boxes on us
Yeah.
to like not not be
That's
cold.
crazy. That's crazy, man. But I think this film, even though it's based on a true story, it would have been interesting if they explored sex on these drugs. Like if Raul got laid once at least while he was high and like had a trippy moment. You know, imagining he's like smashing like a ostrich or something. I thought that would have been interesting. What do you think?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, already the film is interesting.
Yeah.
I think there could be like a because this film is so full of like symbols and like commentary and psychedelic
Hmm.
things. There could be like a sequel or a deeper look into the film, something like
Yeah.
that. Maybe even like an explanatory documentary or another film.
Yeah.
I don't think I can make any additions to the
Yeah.
original film itself.
Or people could just do something very, you know, very extraordinary, but much easier. They could just read the book. This
Yeah, that too. Because I'm curious about it now, and if I can find it, I want to read
yeah,
it.
yeah. But
But
I-
yeah, and
go,
I guess like one more thing, since we were talking about the
yeah.
flashbacks, like in the diner, that diner scene with the lady and Gonzo sort of goes like psycho on the lady because he wants to sleep with the lady, and on a napkin he writes "backdoor beauty" with a question mark,
Hmm.
and she's like she gets mad and then he gets mad and sort of like threatens her, and I think that's also like we can see that saying hurt people,
Mm,
you know, like he is traumatized, and they also say something like or Raul says something like I can see like she was traumatized and she was reliving her trauma from before when she saw the knife
mhm.
or something like that. So yeah, I thought that was about
Yeah.
that maybe.
I wanted to talk about this hotel scene when Raul woke up, and later on he's trying to recount everything that's happening. The phone rings while he's like sitting down typing, and the whole hotel is full of water, and it seems like he doesn't even care that it's full of water. I just thought that was really cool. But as for the part about the diner, right? Like I think you said it best, right? Hurt people, in the sense that Gonzo showed right then and there, like he doesn't care about this girl's feelings, right? And maybe he hit on her in a crass way, but he didn't show any remorse at all. And when he cut off the telephone and like dropped it on the table, I just thought that was so ice cold. I was ice cold as hell. And yeah, then he pulled out the money to buy the pie. You remember that? Yeah,
Yeah.
that was interesting. Once again, I think Gonzo has had issues with like being poor, being a minority, and white women looking over him, and now he's like back in the place where he can be in power over these women. So anything you want to add on?
Yeah. No, not for me.
No. All right. My guy Matt Villainy is back in. Any comments about sort of like the last few minutes of the film, like the 20 minutes or so, like the diner scene, or when Raul and Gonzo, finally leave each other? All right, maybe he's like getting his ish together. I don't know, but yeah. Basically, what happens at the end? Acting.
Yeah, so basically I think
But
they're driving off to the
if
oh yeah,
if y'all
go
can hear
ahead.
me, yeah, the diner scene. So where I guess the waitress was threatened by them, and she may have been uh, also, or at least what I got from the film is she I guess she wasn't really, yeah, she was threatened by them, but there was probably like a attended prejudice or whatever, and, and Gonzo he cut the telephone cord because she was gonna call police or whatever, and then uh, but they were never gonna do anything, but Gonzo was like, uh, Gonzo just kind of like m- made her feel more scared just to show, just for show. But I think that for me that was one of the most memorable scenes, and it was, I guess because I guess I like the actress Ellen Barkin. She was the waitress there, and um, yeah, those are my thoughts on it.
Yeah, maybe there was some discrimination in it because she did call him a spick, like with all force in her throat. She said, "You dirty spick pimp." I said, "Bitch, who the fuck?" But yeah, actually, yeah, let's wrap up the
Yeah.
story.
Yeah, basically at the end, like they're driving off. They're finally like exiting Las Vegas and they try to find the American dream.
Hmm.
And yeah, who was it? Gonzo is gonna catch a flight, so like Raul takes a insane path
Hmm.
to the airport and drops him off, and then we see him like writing and like sharing his thoughts with us, which I thought was sort of like funny
Hmm.
because he said like we did everything, we broke every
Hmm.
rule in Las Vegas that we can,
Hmm.
and then at the end he said something like I'm like a freak who lives in a world full of
Hmm.
freaks.
Yeah.
I don't know. So I was thinking like, okay, so the American dream is basically breaking all the rules, and as long as you don't get caught, it's okay,
Hmm.
something like that. And I don't know. And then anyone who like believes in lives in this world is a freak
Hmm.
because they have to deal with all these things, the war and all the isms and all the injustice around you,
Hmm.
all the trauma, like the world and the systems make us all sort of like freaks, and they make us like lose our
Hmm.
minds to a degree. And that's what I got from like the
I
ending.
see. I see. I got the once again the opposite ending because after he drops Gonzo off at the airport and he goes back to his dirty hotel room with American flags everywhere, right? Paintings of flags, flags uh, on the desk, and it's disgusting, dirty, and he's like living in filth, but he's still writing on his typewriter, and he begins to realize sort of that the counter revolution, the hippie movement, the drug culture, you know, sort of didn't create the peace and prosperity that people thought it would. The hippies thought, if we just bomb everybody with LSD and marijuana, we will all eventually just chill out and mellow out. But this film made me think of something that I never thought of before, and I thought it was interesting. You know, the hippie said, let's all take LSD and find out our true selves. And a lot of Americans did. A lot of the people who are in power took marijuana, LSD, and everything like that, and they found out their true selves. They said, "Yep, we are exactly what we are. We're consumers. We're hedonists. We're savages and sadists and masochists. Like, let's just live that." And I never thought about that before because we always have this view in our mind that the '60s was like a failure to some degree, free love and free drugs and everything. But no, it wasn't a failure. It was a success because it made us realize that's what we want as a society. That's what we want as Americans. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. But don't you also think like the drug wars and all of those things were kind of funded by the government,
The
and
war
then
on drugs.
also blame,
Well, go ahead. Go ahead.
and they also like they gave people drugs to a degree, like, or they allowed drugs to be distributed
Hmm.
to certain communities, and then they blame those communities for using the
Hmm.
drugs. No, like, isn't that
Yeah.
also like it's not all only about hippies decided to take
Right.
psychedelics?
I mean, that's a part of white supremacy because white people love to get high. Let's keep it real. People like Raul and Gonzo are the reason why every dope boy in America got a Rolex because those are your clientele. If you got a Raul and Gonzo in your iPhone, you can ball. You feel me? And I'm talking real shit. But the thing is, in the '60s and '70s and stuff like that, the drug culture created those people who are in power today and influenced the culture. But they didn't turn around and say, "Hey, let's legalize LSD. Let's legalize drugs." No, because they want to criminalize us while allowing themselves to live above the law, like how we see Raul do in this film. So, yeah, I don't, you know, I'm just trying to make the point that I feel like at the end, Raul sort of realized America as an idea, the freedom that we have in America does exist for people like him because, like you said, Acti, he went to Las Vegas, broke every law, every rule, every norm, and walked out fine and had a great ass time with his friend. You get what I'm saying? So And he also realized that it's not the drugs that are doing it, it's just the country. The country still allows us to be free white men, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense because in a lot of scenes like that, this is also why I like the circus scene a lot. They basically got high off of nationalism because they sniffed the devil ether from the flag or something. Like maybe it's not nationalism, or I don't know, they got high off of the idea of the American
Mm-hmm.
dream or of the society or something.
Mm-hmm.
Like what the American society is supposed to stand for,
Mm-hmm.
right? Freedom and success and money and all of those things. But then when they got high, everything turned into a circus,
Mm-hmm.
and it wasn't like what they
Well,
expected.
what,
So
well, when
yeah.
they got high, part of their experience was a circus, but then part of their experience was also the police state, literally living with the
Yeah.
police. And but even in the worst circumstance, or even in the best circumstance, whatever you want to call it, they were still living above consequence. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, I just think this film says a lot about America. It also says a lot about the audience that people love this film too. I kind of feel about this film like Taxi Driver. People look at Taxi Driver and say, "Oh, this is a great film," but they're not seeing some of the subtext because they're looking at it through a very white lens. I would say.
Yeah. Okay, shall we give our final scores?
Yeah, yeah. But I wanted to ask Matt Villani if he had any thoughts about what this film says about our country, if anything.
Yeah. So like even when y'all mentioning the nationalism and I was picturing him when he had the American flag on his back, and I don't know what he was doing with it, but it's like uh I don't know. I'm so I guess you describe me more of an anti-nationalist. I'm not with it, but and that's when I saw that because I didn't uh, really recognize it before when I watched it, and then I was watching it this time. I was like, that's interesting. Uh, yeah, that's just my take. Just I'm more of a I'm more of a just just live, just treat people right. Just because you were born on a certain plot of land doesn't make you any better than anyone else. That's me.
Facts, facts. All right, so acting.
Should I give my final score?
Go ahead. You could do
Okay.
drugs. That's what you should do. You should talk about final score.
No,
Now we gonna score some, gonna
I'm
score
gonna
some dope.
I'm gonna give this movie 8.5 LSDs out of 10 LSDs.
Talking about 8.5 tabs, 8.5 milligrams.
Yeah, I almost want to give it a 9.
Mm,
I don't know. Maybe okay, I'm gonna give it a 9.
okay, okay.
I
Why?
think
Tell us why. Tell us why.
and the one point that I'm taking off is that I do think there are some blind spots, like how you said it is being mostly like told and watched from a white perspective, right?
Hmm.
So I do think in the story there are some blind spots, or there could be some more exploration with Dr. Gonzo's character.
Hmm. Hmm.
But for the most part, I do think like the cinematography, the visuals, the music, the even the narration, like
Hmm.
how sort of like weird the story is told in terms of like voice tone.
Hmm.
I do think there was detail in everything, and I really like enjoyed it. And more that I more the more I think about it, more things come up,
Yeah,
and also like the topics that were trying to be portrayed in the movie are I think important even
yeah.
today, like with Trump and everything like that.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's why I'm gonna give it a 9.
Okay, okay. I got you. A 9. So you give it 9 LSD tabs.
Yep.
Okay, nine, nine oxy pills. 9 joints. Okay, I feel you. I feel like we're gonna have a big difference in score here because I'm gonna give it a 6.5, right? And it's really not because of like my critique of the film, as in the social commentary, like how white it is in story and in reception. It's just more about the lack of plots, I guess. And I like stories with, conflict. I like stories with, some drama, something that's trying to tell something, right? And this movie is telling something about an experience, and it does have a larger idea. I'm not knocking it for its themes. It's just really hard to follow if you're watching it the first time. I can admit that I liked it more the second time, but my first watch score is a 6.5. Maybe it will go up if I watch this movie again. I do love Johnny Depp's acting, Benicio del Toro's acting. I love Gilliam's directing, lighting, cinematography, everything. It's just the story part is so missing. And this is a criticism that people had about this film when it first came out. And even though I've done a ton of drugs, and I do think, it's okay to have a trip or two every now and then, or a big trip in your life. I, I'm not a drug culture like person. You get what I'm saying? So it's hard for me to like attach myself emotionally to this film. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. I mean, that part didn't bother me as much.
Hmm.
And I just sort of thought, like, especially later when I found out what gonzo journalism was,
Hmm.
I just sort of thought this is like a story of a work trip.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah,
A crazy work trip, a
yeah,
wild business trip. The thing is, like, this my score of 6.5 is not because of anything really bad about the film. It's just like my feelings are not there for that film, if that makes sense. You get what I'm saying?
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's art is personal, so yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But I'll pass it to Matt Villainy. What do you think? Score, final thoughts?
Yeah, give it a 7.7
Okay.
because of like mm, I give it a 7.7 just because of the how it was shot, and it's so heavy that you kind of can. I was able to kind of like feel the trip,
Mm-hmm.
sort of, if you can without actually without actually being on anything. And it's so trip. It's just a trippy movie.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, yeah, and yeah, I agree. There's 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 a story, but also there's not really a story. So so yeah, that's that.
Yeah. Yeah, like if we were just rating this movie off of the effects, like the scenes where they're high and like you see lizards as people eating at a cafe, or the monkey being sold, like that's great, but the story part is missing, But
Right.
it's true to the text. So yeah,
Okay,
acting.
so should people watch this movie sober or high?
It'll probably be a different experience high. Like how high and high on what?
LSD.
uh, no, you should have. This is the thing when
I
you're
don't know
doing
drugs that well.
when I did LSD, you should be at a party with people that you're comfortable that you might fuck. Like you will not be upset if you wake up the next morning and you're like, oh shit, I didn't know I felt that way about you, Daniel.
Oh no.
No, I did not have any homo experiences on LSD, but those things make you feel like your mind is open and free. But
Mm,
I'm saying that's the time you should do it.
okay,
I
I
used to
mean,
go ahead.
I guess like weed is good for this
We okay.
movie.
Yeah, that might be a cool high.
Yeah.
Watching Fear and Loathing for the first time high, or the second time high, maybe. What about you? What do you think?
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
I mean, I enjoyed it sober. Like I watched it 9 in the morning. So yeah, I think you can enjoy it either way.
Okay.
But I do think like if you're high on weed or something, like you would have you might think different things of certain scenes.
Yeah.
So it definitely might be interesting.
Yeah. Depends on if you're smoking like what strand. If you're smoking that stuff that gets you deep in thought, that's
Yeah.
got you in another dimension. Oh yeah, you're gonna really be terrified about this film.
Yeah.
And, yeah. But yeah, all right. I think we can wrap it up here. And shout out to Matt Villainy for the film request or for the film suggestion. Thank you so much for putting this on our plate. We got Black Dynamite coming up tomorrow, same time, 12 o'clock. Come join us on Spaces. That's another fan request from our guy, Matt Villainy. And if anybody else has any other films that you want us to watch, put it in the comments. Let us know. We're going to keep on rolling and trucking. Shout out once again to everybody who is tuning in to our film reviews on YouTube, because Tell Them You Love Me is like getting close to like 10,000 views. It's got a lot of comments, a lot of watch time. I appreciate everybody who's been leaving comments under Tell Them You Love Me. I think would be great if we did more documentaries of true crime, because that seems to be something that people love to debate and talk about. So yeah, but once again, shout out to everybody doing that. Act, you got anything you want to say?
No, I mean, thank you everyone for the support and see you on the next review.
All right, peace.
Peace.